Hi, good morning. I'm Paige Leo, and I talk about autism and stuff. This stuff.
We are live. What's going on Instagram?
I try and look at it now as
Hey guys, it's Melanie here. Welcome back to my channel.
Greetings, minions and associates. If you are already a minion you would like to type, please hit like. If you would like to become a minion, please hit follow. If you would like to confess, please do so in the comments. And if you would like to evangelize, please share. So today, it's been about 7 months since my son took his life. My son Cade was autistic ADHD, just like myself. And he took his life last October. I'm stuttering. Today, if anyone would like to speak to me about Autism Speaks, Autism Speaks does refuse to speak to me because I am autistic and I have hard questions to ask them. Very difficult questions like, why is the expense account that Autism Speaks has for the CEO of Autism Speaks about $400,000 and is roughly equivalent to what they actually give to actually autistic people. And so, literally, out of everything that they get, the millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars that they get, they gross like 80 million or something like that. They net about 39 million. Only $400,000 goes to actually autistic people. The rest, poof, disappears. Actually, it doesn't disappear. I would challenge you. I would challenge you to go to the garages of the executive staff of Autism Speak, keeping in mind that most autistic people cannot afford a fucking car, much less a damn garage. So they just really suck away the money away from the autistic community, unfortunately. It's just what ends up happening. So today's episode today, I will be primarily talking about autism and suicide. The one thing that's really sad is Keith Wargo, the CEO of Autism Speaks. He reached out to me, and he sent me an email after I got about 1.5 million hits concerning my son committing suicide on TikTok. I got about 1.5 million views talking about him, and that got the attention of Autism Speaks. So Keith Wargo, the CEO of Autism Speaks, sent me a email offering his condolences, and he said if there is anything that Autism Speaks could do to help the autistic community, to let him know. Now, I refuse to speak to that floored me. I could not believe that Autism Speaks had no idea what the autistic community needed. And that they had the audacity to come ask me. I'm just an actually autistic person. I'm not the autistic community, and that's what I told them in a TikTok video. I only would respond in public. I'm glad I made that decision. What I found out was that I got a canned letter from him, and that he always asked whatever he can do for the autistic community. It was a canned sentence. The letter was canned. He did not have enough humanity to actually write me a letter of condolences to my son. No, he had to write a canned letter to me from Autism Speaks. And it was only about 6 sentences long. But instead of actually writing me a letter, he sent me a canned letter. That's how callous this man was. And then what he asked for in the letter was ridiculous. It's Autism Speaks. They should know what the hell autistic people need. I mean, it's the name of their damn organization. So, if anyone says Autism Speaks will not speak on behalf of themselves, I am asking anyone to speak on behalf of them. I need to, get a display capture in there. So here I am today. I'm just going to keep on reviewing films and so forth about suicide here. And if anybody wants to join, if anyone has the audacity to speak for Autism Speaks, I will be more than happy to put them on. Since Autism Speaks can't do that for themselves. They just don't have the audacity, evidently, to I mean, when there's an organization that refuses to speak for itself like this, it really shows you what kind of organization they are, you know. So, right now I am having a heck of some technical difficulties here because I'm trying to get there we go. Display capture. There we go. Alright. So, what we're going to do is just watch a few videos that have been put out in the last year by various people here on YouTube.
Yeah, no, so I'm gonna talk to you guys about autism and suicide. So basically, I think a lot of people on the autism died by suicide than those in the general population, and I think it's common for autism to develop depression or suicidal thoughts, and it's really hard, honestly, and there are many reasons why suicide is common in autism, because like people with autism, they experience social communication issues where they have difficulty regulating their emotions. They experience a lot of stereotypes.
Okay, so this is called alexithymia. My son called it emotional numbness. And he constantly complained about emotional numbness. We finally identified this as being alexithymia. Well, even knowing this, he did not get mental health. Instead, he took his life. Now, Autism Speaks has focused on stigmatizing autism and stigmatizing autistic people and mental health as such. And my son did not get the mental health that he needed. Instead, he took his own life. The problem here is if they had put as much effort into normalizing autism as they did stigmatizing it, perhaps my son would be alive today. But we don't know, because they when they took an opportunity where they could have normalized autism, but instead they stigmatized it. And when they stigmatize it, I'm sorry, I'm trying to fix my screen over here. I'm gonna let this roll for
Stigma
a
and
second while I do this.
discrimination, and also don't feel a connection with other people as well. And another thing is that they don't feel supported by their loved ones, healthcare providers, and their teachers at school as well. So it's really tough, honestly, and this can lead someone to suicide and make them feel lonely, because a lot of people with autism develop loneliness and abandonment in their lifetime. So it's really hard, honestly, and I feel like this is a really frustrating thing to experience, and it's because a lot of people with autism don't have a lot of supportive people in their life, and they
Now, my son did. He had all kinds of supportive people in his life. He could have gotten help at any point in time that he tried, but he refused to try to get help. Why? Because of the stigmatism of Autism Speaks, which Autism Speaks has created. That stigmatism. It created eye problems. No, it did not create eye problems. It created a stigma. And if they had put as much effort into normalizing autism as they did making a stigma towards autism, would my son still be alive? Would he have gotten the mental health that he needed? We don't know. But Autism Speaks blew that opportunity, and my son is dead.
get judged very easily and judged harshly by other people who don't know what autism is, and it made things a lot difficult.
And think about I Am Autism and the type of thing that what they gave, what they taught autism is. How horrible it is, that it breaks up families, it causes divorce, it causes financial ruin.
There, and I think for me, like, there's like, I read a lot of stories about a lot of people died by suicide where they have like an undiagnosed with autism, which is really interesting, and I never heard of that.
Now, see, the thing is, it's so hard to get, like, my son was not officially diagnosed. We knew he was autistic. That was no issue, but there was even no reason for him. He saw no reason to get a diagnosis. He didn't care. I got a diagnosis. I did care. But so he will never even be in that statistic of autistic people. It's just that I know and you know. But he's not ever going to even make it the statistic. So there are tons and tons of people that are autistic. They take their lives every day, and they are not officially diagnosed. This is a real problem in itself.
But it kind of made sense now, because like a lot of people with autism.
Oh, by the way, this is Melanie Yamaguchi. Wow, I think I said that right. Melanie Yamaguchi. I lived in Japan for a year when I was with the military. This is her channel, and she is talking about suicide and
Develop mental health issues like
I just wanted to give her credit where credit's due.
depression, anxiety, OCD, PTSD, and other stuff, which is really hard because a lot of people with autism struggle to make friends at school, and they get taken advantage of really easily and experience a lot of bullying and harassment by other people at school. And I read a lot of sad stories, like this adult man with autism called the suicide prevention because he was suicidal. However, the crisis counselor hung up on him because the crisis counselor couldn't understand what he's saying and couldn't understand his speech problems, which is really frustrating. And after when it happened, when the man with autism got hung up over there when he's trying to reach out for help, he decided to commit suicide. And this is really insane over here, and it kind of makes me angry when I read this because the crisis counselor on the other line is very judgmental, and also she doesn't have enough patience over
I have found that Christless counseling and so forth, I've tried calling Christless counseling, and by the time I got off the phone, I wanted to kill myself even more. That's been my experience consistently. Not just once, but consistently. The crisis intervention hotlines do not know how to deal with autistic people, and they often make it worse.
There, and I know like a lot of crisis counselors were overworked, but it doesn't give them an excuse to take out their anger or bad behavior towards the customers or whatever. So I think for me, like if the crisis counselor hung up
And there's
on someone who's trying to reach out for help, then that crisis counselor shouldn't work there and she should lose her job because like she needs to have
Absolutely. I've had worse meltdowns and wanted to commit suicide worse trying to seek help. Very, very commonly, very, very consistently.
enough empathy, compassion, and understanding towards people. And based on what I read, this crisis counselor doesn't seem like she has the emotional availability and also didn't have enough understanding and listening skills towards those who have suicidal thoughts. So yeah, after I read this, I hope that crisis counselor lose her job, because if she does something like that, then she shouldn't be working in the crisis hotline. So yeah, this is really insane, and this happened a long time ago, and it's still stuck in my head because like as an autistic person,
100% agree with it. Absolutely. That's very unfortunate that is
What happened to her?
it makes me angry that people like her would take advantage of people who have autism and mistreat them with stereotype behavior. So yeah, it was kind of frustrating over there. And also, I think I told you guys that on Instagram there's this person who I followed on Instagram. He's Hispanic male, and I'm not gonna say his name, so I'm gonna call him Frankie, and he's like 5 years younger than me, and he's sort of an actor and a model on social media. So
By the way, if you want a good example of, and I'm not picking on this person, but a good example of monotone speaking and of autistics, this girl is an excellent example. I don't think she realizes that she's doing it right here, but this is very, very common. Now, for me, I've learned to fluctuate my voice and so forth, and be a little bit more animated. But that's something that I really try to do. It's a learned, very difficult learned skill that I picked up.
So He's been going through a lot actually, and he hasn't been active on social media because he's dealing with a lot of issues. And I actually never really talked to him on social media, but I do think he did like some of my Instagram posts on there, which is nice. And I haven't seen him for a few years until somewhere later last December. I accidentally clicked on his Instagram profile and my heart sank to my stomach where I read that he had died last year, not last year, back in 2022, and it turns out he died from suicide. And Frankie's mom mentioned that Frankie has Asperger's syndrome, so Frankie has autism, and it turns out Frankie sort of developed self-hatred and developed struggling.
Self-loathing is very, very, very common among autistics. I think I make so many absolute statements I should never ever make. Like if you haven't been bullied, and if you haven't had a suicidal thought in your life, if those two things have not happened to you, I would dare say that you're probably not autistic. That whatever's going on, there's probably something else going on. Howdy Dewdrop, if I think every autistic person has experienced some kind of bullying and suicidal thoughts. So I feel pretty comfortable saying that if someone says that they have never been bullied and they have never had a suicidal thought, they probably are not autistic. It is that common. And I know that it's very, very bold of me to make an absolute statement of that, like that. And obviously there is going to be at least one exception somewhere, but I think it's only going to be like a very, very few exceptions.
With acceptance because like when he's experienced Asperger's syndrome, he wants to be normal like the other people, and he wishes that he can fit in with the other people. So it turns out that he was feeling depressed and struggled to love himself. So yeah, this is kind of sad over there. And another thing is that people with autism die by suicide since they can develop a lot of self-hatred, a lot on themselves. So it's pretty sad, honestly. And when I read this, I actually kind of tear up over there because that time I was struggling a lot as well, since that time I withdrew from my medications for my mental health. And also, as an autistic person, when I read about Frankie's story, I started to feel even more sad somehow. And then later on, when I read that Frankie died by suicide since he struggled to love himself, I actually felt suicidal as well because I also hated myself as well. And I actually wish that I can fit in with the other people as well. So yeah, that time I almost suicide where I drink Clorox or cleaning products that has poison particles in a teacup. So luckily I
wouldn't have done that part on purpose there, because she was talking about how and so forth that she was thinking of it. Now she's not talking about a suicide ideation at this point in time. YouTube, TikTok, she is not talking about a suicide ideation right now. She's talking about something that happened in the past. Okay, she is not promoting it or anything else like that.
called the emergency number and I got the help I needed, but to this day I still struggle. So I mean, there's good days and bad days. So yeah, and I think suicide is very common in someone who's on the autism spectrum, because a lot of people on the autism spectrum struggle to find a good support system, and they also have difficulty communicating their needs as well, which is really hard over there. And I think what's important is that
This is just an excellent example of a stereotypical monotone autistic speech pattern. It
it's
really is.
important to have acceptance and understanding to those who have autism, and also it's important to have them to get the help they needed and help get them have the mental health support no matter what, because like mental health is very common on someone who's on the autism spectrum. So yeah, and I think it's important to help those who have suicidal thoughts to get the help they needed and get them a right treatment as well. So that's pretty much it, and this is my opinion about autism and suicide. So yeah, that's pretty much it. And to those who's on the autism spectrum like me who are struggling with suicide,
I'm gonna drop this one off right there. We're gonna pick up on another one.
Well, here's the thing. I don't.
This is Christopher J. I don't know anything about Christopher J. It just said what it's like living with autism and depression, so I'm going to let him take it.
I see autism as a medical condition, so to speak. I see it more as just being sort of born different. It's just because we're born different, other conditions are being made worse because of this. For example, like a lot of people with autism have anxiety because of how the world socially is different, or just other factors in general. Or have depression because, well, their brain's just wired differently, but also because it can be much more depressing in the environment they're in half the time.
Do you mind if I ask what depressions felt like for you?
So depression for me was very sporadic, in the sense that it wasn't like an existential dread, so to speak. Sometimes it was, but it was more so just like it came in waves, so to speak. In fact, actually, I used to call it back when I first got diagnosed at the age of 13. I called it a depressional streak, because for me it just felt like a giant. It was more like a wave, but looking back on it, but basically I would get this like weird headache back in the day, and that would just be in a depressed state I couldn't break, right? That's when I was really younger. But as I got older, depression more so became more sporadic, in the sense of like instead of being like an entire like period where I was depressed, it would more so be like, oh.
Being a pathological demand avoidant autistic, my biggest problem is the lack of self-control. When depression takes over, I feel like I don't have control. And usually I get mostly depressed because I think I have a lack of control. And when I feel that I don't have a lack of control, I get depressed, and I get even more depressed because of that lack of control. So it becomes a very kind of out of control spiral at that point in time.
This depressed, I'm going to go wallow for a bit, so to speak, right? Or be very sporadic. And I actually struggle with suicide and stuff later on in my life because, like I said, it was very sporadic and very just like not well thought out because, well, when you're feeling down, you don't tend to think rationally about a lot of things.
No, you don't.
I mentioned the whole belt story.
And my son did not think rationally, and he took his own life.
To where I almost used this 3 years ago to, Sudoku. But for me, looking back, after I immediately stopped doing it, I immediately just spring back into, oh, I love life and stuff, right? So it was very sporadic for me. For other people, it may be a lot more existential, right? And that can be a big issue when it comes to trying to help people out because it feels like a momentum depression, so to speak, in the sense of when you're doing when you feel bad of it, if you get quickly distracted or it doesn't build up, it's fine. When it keeps building up, that's when it gets bad.
Yeah, and it especially gets bad with this build-up when you have a comorbidity. For example, like you have depression and you have another condition. So, like for example, a lot of people with depression will also have addiction or substance use issues. And every time the depression gets a little bit better, it just gets shut back down because they self-medicate with substances, right? So it's like you can't treat just one thing, which makes it feel a lot more hopeless because it's like everywhere you turn, there's like something else that's causing an issue.
Yeah.
What do you wish people knew in terms of helping you out of that?
As I say, no one is just autistic. There are always comorbidities and always other things going on. No one is just autistic.
That suicidality.
It's hard to explain. So, I want to give advice on this, but I want to make sure that I'm not giving the wrong advice, right? Because, every case is different with someone. Every case
Right.
of that type of condition, that tier condition is personalized. But for me, I guess an issue I sort of had was that I went for a phase where I went for a few different phases, or at least a few different iterations of it, versions of it. Things that I had one version where I would basically romanticize that, hey, people would be better off without me. That's the thing a lot of people have when it comes to that type of thing. That they basically, I'm like, oh yeah, people don't want me around. Da, da, da. But for me, like having someone be like, oh yeah, hey, I care about you. It means a lot, especially when it comes to people who don't say it often.
Right.
And so, I mean, the big issue I had with depression back when I entered college was the fact that it was a new environment for me, and I felt like no one was kind of there for me at school. People kind of were, but because it was a new environment, I was basically a fish out of water. And so having someone go, hey, I'm here for you, man. I appreciate you, da da da. It meant a lot to me. Straight up after I decided not to belt myself, I actually called my friend Anthony, one of the best buddies I've ever had in my life. Love the guy so fucking much. I talked to him, like he were on Discord friends and stuff. I said, hey, I did this, kind of talking stuff, and he talked and I just felt better. Unfortunately, that was the night that I kind of got wheeled to the hospital because I told him already about my situation, told him what happened. Not that I was feeling down and stuff, right? I told him that, hey, I tried doing this but got better. Because as mentioned before, a lot of times at hospitals and stuff, institution stuff, if you tell them that, hey, I did this tonight, you're going to get sent to the hospital because you're going to get diagnosed as a patient with altered mental status, therefore losing your right to health care in the U.S. and stuff. Internationally, it's maybe different, but yeah.
And the thing is mental health does more harm than good normally with autism, because they try to treat autistic people like autistic people. It looks like this guy's in a dorm or something. With the way this lock is on this door, that is very institutional. That door, there's a alarm that looks very institutional. I think he's in college.
Yeah, but just having someone being there for me saying, hey, you're worth it, you can do this, I appreciate you being here, means a lot, especially don't say it often, because like a lot of people just forget to be like, hey, I like you, man. You know, I mean, I feel like most people when it comes or get caught off guard when someone's just like, hey, you're cool, I like you. You know what I mean?
Right, you think people should be a lot more explicit about their appreciation, especially in cases of autism where you might not pick up on this appreciation if they want to say it. Yeah.
There's kind of two different, like, pools of people, right? There's a person who basically doesn't believe what people are saying, and therefore it basically shuns the idea that they are worth it. And the person who, and then there's also a person who doesn't believe they're worth it, but then if someone tells them they're worth it, they're going to be like, oh, wait, I am worth it, you know what I mean? Someone actually gives a crap about me. So, being supportive generally matters a lot, but also, if you're trying to help someone with autism and depression, stuff like that, in a suicidal state, just be there for them. Be there for the person you care about. Make sure you can at least express that, hey, you care about them.
A lot of people probably won't think to be so explicit about little things like this just because they don't know how impactful it can be for people, because they can't imagine how actually severely in need people are of it. So I think that, that is a good reminder for people that, hey, you might not think much of it, but it's a good idea to just be explicit because someone might need it out there.
Yeah, right? I mean, especially a lot of people who have autism and don't express their emotions a lot. Because my voice probably sounds a little monotone on your end, right? Most people have monotone voices, don't want to show their emotions, even on the autistic end, right? A lot of people who are also even neurotypical don't.
I would agree that both of these guys are a bit monotone. I mean, they're just having a real, just a conversation. So I don't see that there's a real huge reason for him to be
to try to really change their voices.
Show their emotions when they're feeling it. It's sad because the whole I don't want to make others feel my grief, right? So just even the random acts of my friends saying, hey, you're looking good today, man. Oh yeah, you're doing well today, man. You got this. You're great. You know what I mean? That, even if it's just random, even if the person seems fine, is always just a good practice to do, because then at least if they are feeling down, not showing you, at least you made their day.
Damn, that's really heartbreaking that sometimes what could have saved someone is something so simple, and they just didn't know to do that.
Yeah. I mean, at least for me, like when I had my little skits in that, it was very impulsive. My burst of like me wanting to do something was more so very impulsive, right? It was a situation of, oh, I am sad, this is building up over a bit. I let it build up, then it's, oh, I'm going to do this now. And then the moment I said, no, I'm not doing it, it just felt better because, well, I didn't do it. And, well, I didn't end my life and stuff, right? But like, it was just very impulsive. Once that cycle is broken, it's good. and having a supportive person matters a lot. But I feel like something for people on the spectrum they should know about, though, is that, hey, if you have problems, try to get a therapist, seek professional help, because a lot of people tend to, relying on your friends is a good thing. Don't get me wrong. But some people over-rely, and you don't want to lose your supports outside of therapists by making your outside supports your therapists. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Because I feel like a lot of people push friends away by making their friends therapists, which isn't what you really want to have out of a friend. Yes, talking to someone about an issue is one thing, but don't make all your talk to that person about your issues.
Right.
And it sounds somewhat toxic, but the thing is that like it does help save friendships, because a lot of people just get fed up with someone just bring up all get fed up with someone just being constantly just negative. And I hate saying this because I had that phase too. But seeking professional help is a good thing, and also maybe just try finding help yourself occasionally. I mean, it depends on the situation, right? It depends on what you're talking about, what the level of the situation is. But finding help in yourself also is looking at yourself like, hey, how can I get better? Versus I am bad, I'm bad. Like a mindset shift is big. It's helpful. Shifting your mindset from I am sad to what can I do to not be sad is definitely big.
And that's not real easy. I'm glad that he's capable of doing that, but I'm not really capable of doing that, and my son obviously wasn't.
Ask yourself those questions. And if the answer is kill yourself, don't do that, get professional help. Get professional help immediately, right? But try to think of ways to help yourself improve your life.
And Autism Speaks, whereas they had the opportunity to normalize autism, to normalize mental health, instead they stigmatized autistic people and literally said that we would lead families to divorce and financial ruin.
Because then that'll make a big impact overall, because your mindset is no longer I am sad.
And they never have truly apologized and said why they were wrong for that. They just said that they made a mistake with that. They never ever have identified and said we were wrong because we said this. They have never taken full accountability for I am autism. Ever. By the way. Just saying.
That I'm sad. The mindset is I want to get better, I want to be happy.
Well, that's the disgusting part about depression and suicidality, is that the mechanism and the tool that you use to get yourself out of it and to shift your mindset is the thing that it's impaired.
Exactly. So, and that's a big drag in the fight, and that's why having external supports do matter, but also don't burn those external supports down. It's a hard topic to talk about. It's a hard topic because every case is different, right? But I feel like in general, it's a good idea to just work on yourself while also trying to have others work on you or support you.
Right. I think specifically hearing what would have helped you in the case of someone with autism is really helpful, because I think a lot of people would have come up with a bunch of other ideas before they thought of just verbal appreciation. Right, that usually isn't the first thing I think of when I think of what's going to help people who are suicidal, right?
Okay, once again, this is Christopher J, his channel.
And I think for a lot of people too, but I guess it matters so much more for you because you feel deprived of that in your normal social situations, right?
Yes.
So that was an interesting little one.
These are extreme cases.
I was really surprised to see Megyn Kelly here. Talking about this, I just the fact that Megyn Kelly is talking about this is already got me cringing, because it's Megyn Kelly, and she is not an expert. She doesn't know diddly shit about autism, as far as I know. She is just a media person. That's all she is.
Canada and the Netherlands are extreme. And so is that just what's behind it? The Netherlands, you talk about the culture, how they're like, you had your run, it's over, that's that. Is that how the Canadians are too?
Well, to some extent. I mean, it is actually quite extraordinary that in Canada, and I've written about medical assistance and dying in Canada. I wrote a story for the Free Press back in 2022. Again, I wish I were making this up, but it's actually easier to get assisted dying and euthanasia in Canada than it is to find a family doctor where you can be on a wait list for years. It's essentially what is happening in Canada and in the Netherlands to some extent. I would argue that it's actually easier to get euthanasia and assisted dying in Canada than it is in the Netherlands. The Netherlands, Still, you have to go through a rigorous process before you're approved. In Canada, just when I was working on the story, I spoke to a 21-year-old young man who was approved to die. He was days from being euthanized by his doctor, and his medical condition was that he had type 1 diabetes, and he had gone blind in one eye because of his diabetes, and he just didn't want to live anymore. He was only 21, and if not for his mother discovering that his doctor had approved his death and he was going to die, she had a week to stop him from dying, and she called the doctor, recorded a conversation with him, exposed him on social media, and then the doctor eventually had to withdraw from the case. And it's, I've spoken to this person since.
That's absolutely ridiculous. A 21-year-old.
We spoke roughly around the time that he was going to die, and I just reading between the lines, it seemed like he was happy to be there, happy to be still alive, and he was picking up vegetables in his grandmother's garden, and it was around Thanksgiving weekend, and it was extraordinary that he sounded happy, and he was glad to be around with his grandparents.
Oh my gosh. There's another case that was all over X recently. Lauren Hove, H-O-E-V-E.
Yep.
She was in the Netherlands, a YouTube creator. She was then 27, and she took to her newly created blog, Brain Fog, to announce that she wanted to die. I saw her tweet earlier this year, was it? Yeah, it was this year or 23, I'm trying to remember. And it was shocking. It read, "This will be my last tweet. Thanks for the love, everyone. I'm going to rest a bit more and be with my loved ones. Enjoy a last morbid meme from me." The photo next to her post was labeled "Me Getting Euthanized," and it featured a child wearing sunglasses and lying on a gurney while giving a thumbs up. Soon thereafter, a doctor helped her, started an IV, put her in the coma, exactly what you're saying, that Zariah wants to happen to her. She was at home, she had her family there, and at 1:56 p.m. that day, she, at age 28, was pronounced dead. Lauren and Zariah both had something in common, and that's autism. And that makes this especially disturbing.
It is, and
I think that's utter bullshit. That is crap. That doctor never ever should have done that. That's horrible, 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 thoughtless, evilest thing of that doctor to do. And that's the type of things that Autism Speaks. People think it's okay. Doctors think it's okay to kill autistic people because of organizations like Autism Speaks that stigmatize autism instead of normalizing what is normal. And that is autistic people living. Unbelievable.
There's a third example of a recent case of a 28-year-old woman in Alberta here in Canada. She won a court just ruled in her favor that she could go ahead and get euthanized because her father wanted to stop her from doing that. Guess what? She has autism. So and in the Netherlands too, an increasing number of people with autism are opting for euthanasia and are getting approved, and they have died recently. And it's I think I've met adults who have autism, and they have gone on to live very fulfilling lives. They've had children, they're successful, I just never thought that autism would feel like a death sentence for people suffering from it. I think it goes back to what I was saying earlier, that increasingly the medical community in places where euthanasia is legal and assisted dying is legal, I think they're increasingly giving up on their patients. Society is
Yes.
giving up on these individuals. Society, we've gotten to a point where we're just not taking the time to speak to people who are suffering.
And this whole thing is predicated on the fact what they're saying here is it makes assisted suicide easier than to treat autistic people. In other words, we're not going to give autistic people mental health in Canada. We're going to make it easier for them to kill themselves than to get mental health. That's what they're talking about here. This is 2 months ago, people. This is not something that happened a long time ago.
Everything is just fast paced. Everything has to have a quick solution. Everybody wants to be in control and in charge of everything that they do.
Well, not just that, but also the absurd push at every turn to be happy. Be happy. You have to be happy. Happy. Abigail Schreier writes about this in her new book, Bad Therapy, about how that this is the wrong directive. If you ask somebody, the average person, how many times in a week's period they feel genuine happiness, it's probably maybe 15% of their week. That's not a norm. We're not normally walking around skipping with a big smile like, I'm super happy. We're working hard, or we're focused, or sometimes we're stressed. Sometimes we're just sedentary. We're bored. We're entertained. But like the word happy might not apply. And even if it doesn't, even if you're more of like a sad person, sadness is an okay emotion. It's just we've deemed happiness to be this, it's an unattainable false idol to have it dominate your life for most people. And then we're slowly but surely demonizing people who have these disorders like autism. I know that Lauren also had ADHD. It's like, what's next with kids who have Down syndrome? Are we just gonna, shove them right into the line? Because you know what? They're less than. This is just opening up such a dark door. With cyber attacks on the rise, protecting your data security is more important than ever. So why is Congress considering a bill that could put your credit card data at greater risk? Coalition.org.
Okay, so Megan's going to go into a commercial there. She's paying the bills. I can't pay my bills yet. But that is coming, hopefully. Okay, this my ASD journey is who this is. This is 6 years ago.
Okay, hello everyone. I have to laugh when I put this shirt on, and I feel like I should have like a Star Trek emblem or something on here, Yeah, I don't know. So I may laugh every once in a while when I look at myself in here. And, all right. Well, hey, I want to talk about an issue that's very, very troubling, very, very upsetting, and it's probably not talked about enough. And that is the high rate of suicide among people who are on the spectrum. I did some research a while ago. Actually, my friend Carol Bird, I want to refer you to at least one of her videos and look up suicide as a topic in all of her videos. And she's got excellent, she's been doing this a long time. And her quality of videos is so much better than mine, I'll admit. And she just has her mind, I go tangential everywhere, and she seemed to be able to hold fast to a topic. So that's my problem, and hopefully I'll get better as I do this more. Anyway, from what I have found in statistics, it looks like about 2/3 of the people who are autistic will contemplate or attempt suicide, and 1/3 of them will be successful. Compare that.
I think it's way higher than 2/3. I think it's damn near 100%. I don't believe for a moment. I think it's way higher. I think it's way higher. Yeah, I'm not buying that.
That to the United States national average, and I think it was 1/10 of 1%. 1/10 of 1% compared to 33%. Oh, I mean,
And I think it's more like 99%, by the way, of autistic people contemplate, think about suicide at some point in time in their lives. I cannot possibly see how it could be less than that. I really don't. Maybe they're right, but I cannot, I don't believe it. I just don't.
what is that? 10, 300-fold, 330 times the number. I guess it's hard to talk about, really is, because okay, put on my good face here. It's hard to talk about, it really is, because I've been there. I have been there, and I was younger.
Okay, so this is called my ASD journey. So I think we can assume that he is autistic himself. Just like I'm the autistic page, it kind of the title kind of, the moniker kind of says it itself.
I was actually young once. And if I could reach out to people, I think I was still in my late teens. It might have been really early 20s, late teens, I think it was. And I don't know how different it's going to be for those of you who have been diagnosed to know what's going on. I know for me that it was a moment in life where I had some different things. I actually, what it was I had gone to the doctor, and for something completely different. It was an old family doctor. We'd moved, but I came back to the area I was going to school, and he knew me, he knew my family, he knew the dynamics of my family, which is what I thought most of all the stuff that was going on in my life was the dysfunctional family. And then I don't really think I thought that much about the ADHD or dyslexia, I mean, all that. I mean, I know school was hard and all that, but anyway, long story short, he said, he was probing my stomach and said, I want you to go get some x-rays of your stomach, which was like way off left. I mean, I came in for a sore throat, I think what it was, I want you to go get your stomach examination. And well, he was right on.
By the way, very important to know that with autism, the brain bone is connected to the stomach bone, so to speak. And what I mean by that is, we don't know why, but we know for a fact that the brain is very, very, very closely connected to the stomach. And for instance, even the stomach bacteria that we have in our stomach is interrelated with the brain itself.
I was, I think, 20 or 21 at the time. I think it was 20. Because I remember I went back to the doctor, and he said they found 11 years of scarring and ulcers. Now I don't know if there's like a tree and it's a ring, and every year it grows, or something. I don't know how they determined 11 years. So I'm just sure it's the number. But I remember when they were doing X-rays, it wasn't just a click, 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 click. It was click, 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 click. So it was a lot. It was a lot. Well, that was a moment. That was sort of a come to reality moment for me. I remember the doctor. So funny. He said, "Whatever you're worried about, you need to stop." And I just remember like, "Thanks, doc." All right. I'm glad you told me that. Okay, I feel so much.
So a fellow is probably just living and autistic, and that's what caused it. I've had ulcers myself from just living and being autistic.
Well, it was after that. It's when the crisis had hit. It's when I finally said to myself, okay, I think that's when I really realized I didn't know it was an autism thing, but I knew I was fooling myself. I knew I had this plastic banana rock and roll smile on that, was just a complete farce. It was a facade. It was something I put on. It was a coping mechanism. And here, all of a sudden, that rug was pulled out from under me. Well, that's when things got really, really dark for me. And I did try to go get help. I know it's depression. It's depression. It's like it doesn't feel right. It doesn't feel like it's depression. I don't know what it is, but it doesn't feel like depression. Well, to all of you out there who are younger, to all of you out there who are feeling depressed, who are contemplating ending your life, all I can say is about me. I know at the time, I remember this little voice or whatever, in my head saying, just, your answer's coming, your answer's coming. I mean, it was something like that. It wasn't, I can't even put it into words what it was. But something made me say no, And I'm glad that voice didn't say, but it's going to be another 40 years, I said, well, okay, thank you, but no thank you, Seriously, I mean, I look back, I have that perspective, and I don't know what you're going through.
All right, I need to wrap this one up and call it a day for right now. This is, I will pick up on this and be talking about this later. This is David Page. Screw them, Flap Carter.